My friend, we got into something really juicy. We are talking about container. So, if you are coming from an on-prem legacy perspective, adapt your skills to infrastructure as a service is quite straightforward. Obviously, you move the concept of network to layer 7, you add the API management exposure, you do understand the VPC concept, security group, and obviously there is a learning curve also in infrastructure as a service. Don't take me wrong, but PaaS is a completely different beast. And in this lesson, we are talking about the ephemeral containers. So what I see is a lot of resources that talk about containers, and it's almost thinking that is like an on-prem server. Is not. There is a complexity in terms of design that suppose a layer on top of a hypervisor. Your Docker or whatever you want to use it to deploy that shared resources. When you have a main host that is Linux, you can't, for example, deploy a container on Windows. What the reason is that layer is extremely binded to what is running on. And actually, this complexity from an OS perspective give you a surface of attack because you do actually have a plethora of services concatenated. Understanding what are the main Kubernetes services is critical, and so don't underestimate the complexity of a PaaS, and don't underestimate what does it mean for your career. PaaS is right now Cloud 2.0, where finally the lift and shift era is finished and everything is designed and engineered straight from cloud and is containerized and packaged in a container. That kind of implementation is actually subject and the main pillar of all hybrid design, hybrid private, hybrid public, doesn't matter. You see project like Hantos in GCP, for example, and any cloud service provider give you like Amazon Outpost and the others let you to run locally containers. Some use hypervisor based on VMware, for example. Somebody else ship you still the cabinet, but doesn't change the concept. The complexity of a container should be on top of your list. You need to learn, use Coda Cloud, use whatever resource you want. It's when go for the vanilla certification of Kubernetes, that's my suggestion, is at least independent from the cloud service provider, give you an idea. When you study that, you are capable to digest whatever flavor or cloud, but is well structured. You do have a nice syllabus there. So that's my suggestion. If you want to zoom in the topic, do it well and do it through the official Linux Foundation syllabus. Doesn't matter if you do the exam because I'm not that kind of tiger certification tiger pepper catcher. So try to do your best. Uh, Here you have a schema of how is working a service mesh. So I will hammer during this conversation on the components that you should have in your implementation, and I will explain you how to glue it up all together to let you to have that visibility that you need, considering that the container is ephemeral. Ephemeral means that get redeployed. So the lifespan of a container is generally speaking way lower than a VM and for sure definitely different than an on-prem resources and bare metal. So what you need within an implementation of a container is a service mesh. You know, motorbikes are my passion. Proxy services into the pod are called sidecar. Sidecar is because is on a side within the same pod and is creating this proxy service. This proxy service take care to talk straight with the local services, to contact and to recognize who is talking to, and do mutual TLS, and do also monitoring of the connection, parsing filters and rules. So your service mesh is actually the way to have segregation east-west between container and be capable to recognize which servers you are talking to. In this schema that you see, there is istod at the bottom. This area show you all services. Citadel Sol is the one that it does. Citadel is the one that give you the CA, and so all certificate management. So these two services talk and recognize each other through the certificate. This service is the one providing that. You shouldn't forget how important it is in a service mesh to have rules that are capable to filter and recognize which services are talking to each other. This is security-wise a big chunk. If you want to know everything a service mesh does in terms of security, this URL will give you the overview of the design, is an high-level architecture, and what is capable to do. Is obviously talking about what I just described with the policy enforcement, PAP, and so you need to look into that because is explaining the reason why you need it. It has authentication, mutual TLS, and much, much more. So if you have ephemeral containers, independently from the nature of a container that is ephemera, is you need visibility of who is talking to. But it's not the only point that you need to stress. You need also to be capable to know what is running. So Falco is a big chunk of that. So is an open source project that is actually caring about the runtime and is acting as a forensics layer for all these containers. So you want to know the container, you want to see when it got deployed, and to do that you do through the monitoring of a cluster of Kubernetes. But when is created, you want to know who is talking to, and you want to know what he ran also locally. Falco is the layer that you need. How you are capable to grow up all this visibility? From a reliability engineering perspective, all your teams will use probably something Prometheus-alike. This article is connecting the dot, showing you how the architecture of Prometheus that is event driven, so it means based on an event can trigger an alarm, is actually gluing up everything I just told you. So know when it got created, from when, since, and what is the timeline of this container, which traffic did he get, who talked to, but what ran on local. Don't forget something. If you are smart, you need to harden your cluster, you need to harden your pod. There are various videos on these topics. There is a lot of smart fellas outside, but the guideline in terms are obviously the references CISA. CISA recently did an hardening guide for the Kubernetes cluster, and that is really important to look. It's the most recent document that you can find. Obviously, you have also the CIS benchmark, but my suggestion is make your file system not writable. Your pod shouldn't have a file system that can be written on. That's prevent a lot of trouble from a malware perspective. for example. Don't forget that from Kubernetes 1.22, you can also enable swap. And if you enable a swap, you have more space for stuff. So think about it as well. I'm not trying to forecast what is good for your application. I'm dealing with this course to give you an overview of all bits and the way how you think. Deal with infrastructure as a service as a completely different beast than a PaaS, and absolutely even more complicated and different the FaaS, function as a as a service. You'll have a lot of runtime and a lot of capabilities to actually compromise it. So as you saw, each need to be seen. The, people study cloud just for the cloud service provider. No, study what is the technology. Later you see how the cloud service provider implemented that. If you don't understand the technology, you not understand how to attack it. And that's wrong, because each cloud service provider will add his own implementation. But if you don't understand what they implemented, what is under the bonnet, will be more complicated for you. You can learn whatever they feed you, but you need to be capable to understand it with your own thinking. The next lesson is on how we can glue up all these layers, infrastructure as a service, PaaS and FaaS together, and obviously add also the on-prem. I hope you found it interesting. I spend really a lot of efforts to provide you content that is difficult to find out there and show you how to connect all these pieces together. I hope you appreciate. Please subscribe, will means a lot to me, and it will let you know when I'm publish. I'm trying to do my best to be regular on publishing stuff. I know that my editing isn't great. Looks like I'm recording from a cave. I have not even the light on the face, but focus on the content. At the end of the day is what is important for your career. Take care. Cheers. Bye bye.